Wright Thompson has a story about Lionel Messi and his relationship with his hometown, and it's in The Cost of These Dreams. That's a collection that Wright has written, stories on Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Ted Williams, Messi, the greatest of all time untold stories and the cost of their greatness. That is available. When that first came out, Wright came on and thanked us because it went to number one on the New York Times bestseller list.
Well, your fans are, I hope you send out Christmas cards because people evidently love you because they do whatever you say. But no, I appreciate it. How you doing this morning, Dan?
I'm doing great. I did think of you, and you did such a deep dive on Messi and trying to understand the importance of this. Maradona, that shadow, two different personalities, and what did you take away, or what were you taking away from this World Cup, Messi related?
I was watching last night thinking that, or watching yesterday morning, I apologize, just thinking that, I don't know, this sounds weird and slightly over dramatic, but I think it's true that he had bought his way back home. That, for people who don't know, he's from a town called Rosario in Argentina, and he left when he was 12 or 13 years old. And the reason he left is Messi would not be Messi were it not for medical intervention. Like, he needed a regimen of growth hormone, or they said he was going to end up being, very, very, very shorter than he is now. And the club that he played for in Argentina, or the Argentinian Football Federation, refused his family's begs, frankly, to pay for this. And Barcelona stepped up and was like, we got it. And he moved to Barcelona and became Leo Messi. And so there are two things going on. One, when he needed his hometown most, they weren't there. And then on the other side, people just idolized Diego Maradona, and you just couldn't have two different figures than sort of quiet, graceful, brilliant Messi and wild, out of control Maradona. And not to deal in generalities, but Maradona very closely fit into the national id of Argentina in the way that anybody that's sort of a gunslinger in America evokes sort of the great American myths. It's why we loved Brett Favre. Maradona fit into that, and Messi didn't. And in Spain, they thought he was Argentinian. In Argentina, they thought he was Spanish, and he was just a man without a home. His style,
you see Mbappe, he is, that's raw athleticism. He attacks. He's an animal. But Messi is sort of that water torture that here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. It just keeps. And then all of a sudden the faucet opens there. But how would you, in your eloquent way, describe him?
Well, the thing I keep thinking about is the player he was yesterday was not who he was at the very beginning. There were flashes of it, but if you go on YouTube and search Messi doesn't dive, you will see these incredible moments of athleticism. And he's just a guy who, at the end of the day, like all of those athletes that we admire, whether it's Jordan or Tom Brady or whomever, he wanted to win. And as age and time caught up with him, he changed his game to still be able to play. And that guy on that field, first of all, no one should have lost that game. That might be the best game I've ever watched in my life. And we were screaming at our television. And but that guy who walked off that field, a victor, earned that, in like a very real way that I found deeply emotional, that like he earned that.
And I'm watching, and I get to do this all the time. I don't know about you, Wright. I'm just rooting for what's the great story. Didn't matter if France or Argentina won, because it was going to be a great story either way. But to watch with people who don't have a rooting interest, because the drama was what the rooting interest was. And just, do we have that in college? Any sport here that comes close to capturing that?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure it's very siloed and regional. It's hard to find something that matters where the morality play is writ so large, and also there's, I just love to listen to the soccer announcers because I mean, the way American sports are commentated, it's very much like, there's the mic in the pipe and he's trying to keep a high line and the quarterback's going through his progressions and here's the safety blitz coming through the A gap and just, and then the soccer announcer is, they are overcoming the ghost of the generals. It's just like, it's like we need some of that. Like, I don't need to know what the defense is, tell me what it means. And so, I mean, some of that is just the way the sport exists in the consciousness of the people who love it. But no, I mean, the drama was incredible. I mean, I watched it with my mother who couldn't care less. And when the penalty kick started, she got up and left the room. And I'm like, where are you going? And she said, those are all somebody's baby, and I can't watch this.
Oh. I'm wondering the personality of Messi, that sometimes you'll see somebody on the field and then they're different off the field. A lot of times they are. And I don't know what that personality is off the field and on the field if they intersect at any point.
It's there was a great story an ESPN journalist named Sam Borden wrote. I think he wrote it. I don't remember if he wrote it for us or for the New York Times, who he used to work for, but he went to Argentina and sort of went through Messi's life. And one of the things that was so interesting is you almost wish all those people in Argentina who said, oh, he doesn't love his country could have seen this, because he was living an Argentinian life in a Spanish city. He was very, he's married to someone he grew up with, and he has friends who moved over there with him. There's an Argentinian butcher nearby where he buys all of his meat. So he was living essentially in this kind of Argentinian exile a long, long way from home. And, there's a reason he hasn't been in the tabloids like Diego Maradona with, a wrecked Porsche and an 8-ball. I mean, like he's a guy who wants to be great at this one thing and is great at it.
Yeah, and I once he won, I thought, is this it? Like, are you now able to go to the MLS? Let's say, could you see Messi doing that?
It's interesting. I certainly thought, well, that's it. He's going to rise right off into the sunset. I saw a news story this morning that he isn't retiring from the national team. I mean, I don't think he'll make it another World Cup cycle, but the narratives we want for these guys very often isn't the narrative they want for themselves. Tom Brady wants the moment, not the way all those moments are strung together in some sort of, I think they're chasing a feeling. And, a lot more, great athletes than I do, but everybody I've ever talked to, they don't miss, they miss the feeling that you can't ever get back of what it's like when it matters that much and it's on you. And nothing in his life will ever, ever replace this. And so I imagine that, that there, some great writer, I can't remember who now, said, great athletes die twice. Great men die twice. And I think that certainly applies to athletes. And, at least it's an indication that he's self-aware, that he didn't just bite on the narrative and run off into the sunset, that he knows himself. But, he's 35, I think, which in soccer terms is 109. So, I mean, it's like dog years.
What are you working on next?
Man, I am writing a profile. When I get off of this, it's what I'm going to go back to doing. I'm writing about Joe Montana. And I've spent a lot of time with Joe Montana out in San Francisco. And I hope to be able to give you a story about him that feels like you didn't know anything in it. And I'm very, very excited about it. And Joe and Jennifer Montana are lovely, interesting people. And I'm very excited about that.
Give me a nugget here.
Well, when he had a house in Napa, and there were those wildfires several years ago, and they came, they basically said, you got a chance to come out here and save some stuff because the fire's coming for your house. And they went out, and that's where all his football stuff was. And they went in, they didn't grab any of the football stuff. All they grabbed were albums of photographs and pictures off the wall of the kids. They grabbed all of the kids' artwork that had sort of stacked up over the years. And then they were about to leave, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And they went back in and got all of the Screaming Eagle Cabernet. Can't leave that. I mean, we're not animals. So, but yeah, I don't need any memorabilia, but I am not leaving 14 cases of Screaming Eagle to burn.
Great to talk to you as always. Happy
Always.
holidays. Hope the girls are good, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dan.
That's Wright Thompson. The book is The Cost of These Dreams. And I've been around these athletes, obviously, from the start of their career to the end of their career. But when you read something that you had not heard before, that's when you know you're reading somebody who's a great writer and curious. And that's what Wright is.